Hey, you want to retire early? Consider these 5 things first.
Lightning strikes and then you're gonna know my name.
You know what? For as long as I can remember, age 65, man, that was the go-to age to retire. But you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing more and more people wanting to retire early as they come into my practice. And people are asking, hey, is it possible to retire at 50 or 55 or 60 and just have a wonderful retirement? Well, if that's you, I thought I would give you some things to consider before making that leap. Oh, by the way, if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Keith Wilson, and I own a financial planning firm helping folks just like you plan for their retirement. Okay. So here are what I would say would be the top 5 things to consider if you want to retire early. Now, first of all, health insurance. That's a biggie. You gotta think about what your health insurance options are. So if you leave your employer, then you're most likely will lose your group coverage. And remember, Medicare starts at age 65. So what are your options for health insurance until you reach that age 65 for Medicare? Well, when you leave group coverage, you have the option of being covered by something called COBRA, or Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. And here you would have the same coverage as before that you had before with the group coverage, but you're going to be paying full price instead of the employer chipping in on the premium. So it tends to be pretty expensive, and it typically only lasts 18 months. Now, another option is getting coverage through the Marketplace or the Affordable Care Act. And you can access those plans and get a quote by going to healthcare.gov. So if your income is at a certain level, you may qualify for a subsidy and have lower health insurance premiums. Now, let's look at those. They're going to change every single year, the subsidy amounts, but in 2023, you'll typically be eligible for subsidies if you earn between $13,590 and $54,360 as an individual, or between $27,750 and $111,000 for a family of 4. So for most people, health insurance subsidies are available if your income is between 100% and 400% of the federal poverty level. So if you structure your taxable income properly during this time, it's possible to get good coverage at an affordable premium. All right, next, you want to pay attention to your withdrawal rate. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for example, let's say you have $1 million and you want to live on $70,000 a year. Well, then that's a 7% withdrawal rate. And your portfolio, hey, it may not be able to last the rest of your lifetime at that rate. So now there is a long established rule of thumb, which is called the 4% rule. And simply stated, what it means is, according to William Bang, your portfolio could possibly withstand withdrawing 4% of the value and adjusted for inflation for 30 years. But if you're retiring early, you may need more than 30 years. So typically, what I do is I recommend a lower withdrawal rate if retiring early in order to give the portfolio a chance to last your lifetime. Also, here's what I've found. I have found retirees will pull out more money in the early years to do, the things they want to do in retirement above just, living expenses. Okay, moving on. Another thing to consider when retiring early is penalties for early withdrawals. So what I'm talking about is if you're under 59 and a half and you have 401ks, IRAs, or 403bs, then any money withdrawn from those accounts would not only trigger taxes, but a 10% penalty. So by making withdrawals from these accounts before 59 and a half, that could cause those accounts to drop very rapidly. Now, here's a couple of things you could do to avoid the 10% penalty. If you have money in a 401k and you retire at 55, you could access what is called the rule of 55. And it works like this. If you turn 55 during the calendar year, you lose or you leave your job, you retire, you can begin taking distributions from your 401k without paying that early withdrawal penalty. Now, you would still pay the taxes, but no penalty. This rule only applies to 401ks, not IRAs. And you can learn more about the rule of 55 in a video I posted. I'll link that right up here somewhere for you to view. Now, another way to avoid the 10% penalty is something called the 72T rule. So to take advantage of this rule, you must take at least 5 substantially equal periodic payments from that retirement account. And that payment amount, it's going to be based on your life expectancy and some IRS calculating method. Now, it's important to note that you must adhere to that schedule. You can't mess it up. You got to adhere to that schedule that would be established for 5 years or until age 59 and a half, whichever comes later. And the 72T rule applies to both IRAs and 401ks. Now, I would strongly recommend you get with your tax advisor, your financial advisor, before implementing these strategies, as they would know your particular situation. The next thing to consider is, hey, which accounts do you withdraw from first? Now, ideally, you would like to have what I call 3 buckets. You've heard me talk about this before if you've seen any of my videos. All right, these 3 buckets or 3 types of accounts. And those 3 buckets are a tax-deferred bucket, like a 401k or IRA, a tax-free bucket, like a Roth IRA or HSA, and a taxable bucket, like a brokerage investment account. Now, usually, this is what I found. I found when, preparing a retirement plan for clients and coming up with an income strategy, what I found is that in order in which you withdraw from these accounts, that makes a huge difference in how long the portfolio could last. So consider this order. First, withdrawing from the brokerage account, then the tax-deferred account, and lastly, the tax-free account. You see, if you are retiring early, then we need to, bridge the gap until you're eligible to collect Social Security benefits. So consider the sequence of withdrawals: taxable, tax-deferred, then tax-free. And the 5th thing to consider is to have 2 years of income you will need in cash. So if you are going to withdraw money from your investments for income right when you retire, you may encounter what is called sequence of returns risk. All right, for example, if in the year you retire, markets, they drop, and on top of that, you're withdrawing money to live on, then you are hit with a double whammy. It's like, kicking a horse when it's down. So to help mitigate this, have a couple of years worth of income you will need to live on in cash. And that way, you are leaving those investments alone in the event of a downturn, and that could give it time to recover. So now look, there are obviously more things to consider than this, but I have found that these 5 are pretty much on top of the list to think about. And hey, retirement, that's a big step, and especially if you're going to retire early. So you may want to talk with a financial advisor to develop a plan or a blueprint that will address these concerns. And hey, if you would like a retirement plan checkup, there is a link in the description below where we can give you some insight into your situation and see if you are on the right path. So check that out. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to see more videos. Hey, we'll see you next time.